Hey folks, this is Matt once again, and welcome back to another review. Now, the reason I'm reviewing the Candyman films is because a nice guy named Tony had sent me the Blu-ray of Candyman 2, Farewell to the Flesh, from Stream Factory. And he wanted my thoughts on this, so I figured if I'm reviewing that, I might as well review all three Candyman films, starting with the first film. Now, I know I reviewed this film a long time ago, but I just wanted to review it since I'm reviewing the second film. Why not talk about this film? It's a film that deserves it. Candyman, good solid horror film, directed by Bernard Rose, written and directed, and have not seen the film the person did called Paper House. I know Bernard Rose is actually doing a new version of Frankenstein, and Tony Todd and Carrie Ann Moss, they're both in it, which is interesting. But Candyman, based on story by Clive Barker, just a really well done, well directed flick. You got Virginia Madsen in this film. You got Xander Berkeley. Tony Todd does a great job as the Candyman. Has a nice location where it takes place in the projects, specifically in Chicago. And even the way it starts off is really interesting because it's this story being told. And you have Ted Ramis, his boyfriend, and his girl. This whole thing is if you go in the mirror and you say Candyman 5 times, when the light turns off, Candyman will appear. And he has a hook, which I'll be honest, this is a movie that does the hook thing better than I Know What He Did Last Summer. I Know What He Did Last Summer is alright, but if you want to see a horror film that does it better with a hook, Candyman does it better. And did it before I Know What He Did Last Summer. Because this is a 1992 movie. And the girl dies, and you have that shot that you see in the trailer where Sam Raimi looks up, but you see blood dripping from the ceiling. And it's this person telling the story that she heard in the grapevine to Virginia Madsen. Virginia Madsen, she's a good actress. She does a very solid job in this. She's a graduate student looking into the urban legends and doing a thesis on it. Her and her friend's played by Casey Lemons. Now, Casey Lemons is an actress I recognize specifically from that film behind me, Hard Target. She was in Hard Target as a detective. Definitely remember her from that film. And she does a decent job here. She's good, more than decent. She does a good job, just like Virginia Madsen as Virginia Madsen's friend. Xander Berkeley is Virginia Madsen's husband. He does fine. He's teaching at a school. And the first 30-40 minutes, you don't see Candyman. You don't see Tony Todd for about 30-40 minutes. Actually, over 40 minutes. Because I thought it actually worked well in this. It was building up the mythology, but not in an in-your-face, boring thesis way, but how other people react to the story of Candyman. Like, like the beginning where someone tells a story and we see what story she tells. Uh, them hearing the story from these cleaning ladies about the death of this girl who tried. Cops were called. They didn't believe it. Then they got there way too late, and the girl was dead by this hook. Uh, I'm still on my words. I think it's Cabrini Green Public Housing, which I don't think is there anymore. It's a public development place in Chicago near the north side, and apparently in real life that was a very dangerous place, and they shot there, and there was even a point where someone took a shot at their van. Very dangerous place. Supposedly one of the more dangerous places to be. But yeah, I think a lot of that is torn down now in Chicago. But it does a nice build up. This is doing build up in the right way. I thought it had a good atmosphere with the location of the projects, it being sort of an urban ghost story in a way. Them, because they want to do this project, they're looking into this They look into where the place where the woman was killed, and they look behind the medicine cabinet because the building's kind of like her building, where behind the medicine cabinet is a room to the apartment next door or apartment across the way. And Virginia Madsen goes in, and this definitely has a creepy vibe to it. I remember when I first saw this, around the time it came out, it just had a creepy vibe where it just felt dangerous. I don't know how else to describe it. It just felt dangerous. It felt like you were almost in a way you didn't know what would happen next. That it just has a good atmosphere, has a good vibe to it. I don't know how else to describe it. Just had a nice vibe to it. Like when she crawls in and then she turns around, she realizes the hole she crawled in was actually part of a big painting, and the hole was a mouth, and it's a big painting. It looks like Candyman screaming or yelling. And they you get a bit of the story. This guy during dinner tells him the story that Candyman was the son of a slave, and he was hired as an artist. Fell in love with this woman who got pregnant. He was taken. His hand was cut off. They used the paint. He was smeared with bees, and he was killed by that. And again, there's a lot of people sort of telling stories, what they've heard, what's happened, sort of building up the myth of Candyman before we see it. Which again is about the 40-some minute mark. But it does a good job of building the myth of this character. This scene in particular is not only something that really creeped me out when I first saw it back in the day, it's still creepy to watch nowadays. And it was really effective as a kid telling about how this boy in this public restroom, a guy came in to see what was going on, and you see a shot of the boy screaming in agony while there's blood over his crotch, and he's screaming in pain, and the camera goes through the bathroom, which is covered in blood, especially the toilet, which is all covered in like bloody chunks. Even the kids talking about how, oh, they found it in the toilet. And guess what? The fact that that was done to a little boy, and very graphic, but at the same time, it wasn't a Serbian film type, martyrs type of way. Like, okay, that's graphic. It leaves an impact, but then the story can go forward. It doesn't complete. Well, those other movies, for in my opinion, were shitty before it got to those points, but it's definitely how you handle a big, effective hit the right way, I should say. Of course, someone would say there is no right or wrong way, but that's just my opinion. I thought it was a very, definitely one of the most effective, probably the most effective scene in the movie. I say one of because there's another scene that I really enjoy. It's the death of the psychiatrist, which I get to. I thought that was another really effective scene. But then about halfway through the film, I mean, this is an hour and 40-some minute movie, so not quite halfway, but a little, almost halfway, Candyman appears, and Tony Todd did a great job. He did a wonderful job. He just is very sophisticated. He's very, just that voice, that deep voice, that just, you hear that voice, you turn to look who that guy is. Just really controls the room when he's talking. Just that deep voice, which is filled with power. And like, Helen, be my victim. Like, just a really well done flick. And I know that pretty much at the end of the day, this is sort of a love story, kind of like the older horror films back in the day, because at the end of the day, he wants Helen for himself. It is sort of a weird love story. Again, kind of like a lot of the older horror films in the 30s and 40s. You saw some of that stuff. Not all of them, but some of them. I mean, hell, if you think about it, Creature from the Black Lagoon, in a way, was a love story because he was lonely and he wanted the woman and he didn't get any poontang. If you could look at it that way. But I know Bernard Rose, they talk about, by the way, this DVD is a worthy special edition because it has a commentary from the director. It's got a pretty good making of Sweets to the Sweet, the Candyman Mythos featurette, which he did interviews with Virginia Madsen and the director uh, and Tony Todd. Uh, Very nice job on the making of the film, as well as a featurette on Clive Barker, who he seems pretty proud of the film. Some storyboards, but really good special edition of Candyman. And this is what the back looks like. But apparently Bernard Rose actually hypnotized Virginia Madsen. So there are scenes where she looks dazed. She was apparently hypnotized by the director. And it worked well. I mean, Virginia Madsen does a really good job. I mean, she wakes up, she's bloody. This woman she had talked to earlier in the film, the fucking head of the dog is decapitated and just lying there. It's definitely a bloody movie. A baby is missing. Virginia Madsen gets arrested, and it is one of those not typical films because your lead character is blamed for the murders, and um, even by the end of the movie, she's not really cleared of her innocence in a way. She's really not. I mean, she gets arrested. They let her go for a bit. I forget she sort of gets bailed out, and then her friend comes over. And before that, nice scene where she's in the cabinet. It's a nice shock moment where the Candyman's arm with the hook comes out of the cabinet. Like, oh shit. And she's being chased. And he talks about how your disbelief. Pretty much how you told some people that I wasn't real, but I need their belief because their belief keeps me alive. Kind of like Freddy Krueger, where Freddy Krueger says, you know, they need to remember me. Or I have no power. They need to be scared of me. I don't have power. That's sort of like Candyman, where he needs people to believe in the legends. So if you're a disbeliever, beware. Just a really interesting mytho background for the character. Again, well played by Tony Todd. That's definitely a big plus. Also, a big plus with the environment they chose to shoot in. Score by Philip Glass is a well done score. Very well done score. Uh, And by this point, her friend comes in, Casey Lemons. She gets murdered. Um, Very nice, really a vicious after the fact of her body being dead. Because Candyman kills, he's not messing around. I mean, he fucked up that little kid, didn't kill him, but fucked him up. He will gut you from groin to guts. I mean, that's with his hook. I mean, I know the fisherman, I know what he did last summer, has nothing against Candyman. Candyman would hook that motherfucker's ass and use him as a doll, rag doll. Candyman would beat the shit out of him, but and I don't even hate the first movie. I know what he did last summer, but the fisherman would stand no chance against Candyman. But I mean, she gets arrested again, and she's been in there for a month. She doesn't even realize it, and she talked with this again, a really effective scene, talking with the psychiatrist, and she says the name Candyman, and you're thinking, well, oh, Candyman's gonna wait, gonna do this, but no, Candyman, like right off the bat, the psychiatrist is spurting blood from his mouth, and Candyman just and then undoes her straps, so they're not. They're still going to think she's a killer, and then he escapes out the window. I like the way they did that, how he just flies back through the window. Just a really vicious scene, and like a real holy shit scene. Definitely a very effective sequence. And she has to run because they're not going to believe her. Tries to go to her husband, but her husband has left her for one of her, not her students, but one of his students, younger girl. She has nowhere to go. She doesn't know what to do. Came in to keep talking about how it was always you, Helen. And she realized she has to confront Candyman. Um, Gets to a point where he needs to. Some other stuff happens, ends up with this big bonfire by the projects, and Candyman says, we're all going down together, me, you, this baby. She stabs Candyman. And it looks like Candyman's destroyed. She grabs the baby. Even though she's on fire, she saves the baby. And then she dies of her wounds. And then you have her funeral. But, she died for, from what we saw in this movie, that she destroyed Candyman and she saved the baby. And then, during the funeral, the whole crowd of the projects come to her funeral. Now, it says in the sequel that they believe she was Candyman. I didn't get that when I saw that in this movie. I don't get that when I see... I mean, if the people in the projects thought she was Candyman, why would they go to her funeral? Of course, I don't know why the little boy would dump the hook into her coffin anyway. But I didn't really understand that. I didn't really understand. I mean, if they thought she was a villain Candyman, why would they go to her funeral? I assumed it was they all saw that she came out, and even the little kids saw Candyman burning and then saw her. So, and the woman looked sad holding her baby. She wasn't like so it looked like they thought, hey, this girl did a good thing and she paid the price and we want to pay our respects. That's what I assumed. But in the sequel, this movie not that good anyway, so I don't know why I'm thinking of continuity. This film doesn't have much of continuity anyway, so I don't know why the hell I'm complaining about that. I'm just going to assume that they were paying their respects. Again, I don't know why the kid dropped the hook in, but I assume they were paying their respects to give her respect. Like I said, give her respect for what she did for them. She stopped the Candyman that was around their projects and got her baby back. Then sometime later, Xander Berkeley. I do like the fact that he's sad. He's not just, it was nothing. He's sad. He's crying. He misses his wife, even though he's with this new girl. Says her name 5 times. And then she appears and kills him. Guts him. And she's the new Candy Woman. And I didn't think about this, but it's kind of interesting how in the beginning of the film, she was always looking about urban legends. And now she herself has become an urban legend. She herself is going to be an urban legend. Of course, not many people... Well, I don't know how anyone else would know to say her name 5 times and stuff, but it'd just be a random killing. So I don't know how it's going to live on, but it does in the sequel, so it doesn't matter. But it's kind of interesting. She becomes an urban legend now. The urban legend she was thinking of, she becomes one. I think it's a well done movie, well directed, has a good vibe to it. Definitely R-rated, bloody, vicious. Tony Todd does a great job as Candyman. You know it's a role that he did typecast, but it was such a memorable role, and that's why. I also thought he did a good job in the 1990 Night of the Living Dead film. And yes, of course, Final Destination, he has some bit roles in there. Definitely an actor that gets underused. I mean, he gets some bit roles like The Rock and stuff like that, but he doesn't get used as well as he should, in my opinion. But I don't know more I could say about Candyman. Great mythos, background. One of the efforts to bring a new villain. And to be honest, this movie only needed to be standalone. It didn't need sequels, which I'll get into. Because this is definitely the best one. It was the best directed. It was a one-time thing. It didn't need to go on. I mean, I like Tony Todd's Candyman, but just didn't need sequels. Of course, Tony Todd is the best thing on them, so there's that. But well acted, some effective scenes. Maybe ooh shit. Great score by Philip Glass. All around, very solid movie. Candyman. If you're wondering, I didn't realize that these movies, they're pretty much, each movie is from a different company. I mean, this main thing is TriStar. I think the second film is more of Gramercy or Polygram. I guess at this point MGM. At this point MGM. And then the third film is Artisan, which is now Lionsgate. So it's weird that pretty much all three of these films are all three different companies. Which is probably why Scream Factory didn't get the first one or the third one, but who cares about the third one? Of course, I would say who cares about the second one either. I got this as a gift and was curious to see, especially the features, but I don't know many people screaming for a special edition of Candyman 2, but I'll get to that. But either way, thanks for watching, take care, and we'll see you later. Bye-bye.